Hey everybody, welcome in to the Live and Learn podcast. We're doing well on this Thursday, October the 24th. Another beautiful day. It doesn't feel like October. I love it. And we have lots to dive into tonight before we head into another jam-packed weekend in the world of sports. So buckle up for a fun episode tonight. And we got interesting games. We got some storylines to follow. The NFL Week 8, and we're going to dive into some matchups this weekend. We also will go into the bets, which I will get into on Sunday morning in our segment that I do, a little video that I release with the best bets, best picks for the weekend. So stay tuned for that on Sunday. But let's start with quick hits. Not much in the NHL world last night. One game, the Washington Capitals defeat the Philadelphia Flyers for the second time in as many nights. The Flyers only have one win on the season. The Washington Capitals are a surprising 5-1. Some good players, some good efforts from guys like Connor McMichael, Nick Dowd, Tom Wilson with 5 goals already on the season. Alex Ovechkin nearly at a point per game pace despite the fact that he only has 2 goals and he's 40 away from surpassing Wayne Gretzky as the all-time great goal scorer, which he already is, in my opinion. But I look at Philly, and that's not a very good team. That's a team that needs a lot of work. It's a team that got hot last season that was quite surprising. I didn't expect them to be that competitive. I didn't expect them to be down to the wire pressing for a playoff spot. But they did, and credit to them and John Tortorella. Keith Jones, Danny Briere, they know before they take that next step, before they ultimately can return to a competitive team year in, year out. So all that being said, when I look at the Flyers and the game last night, the Flyers have pieces already that I like. Travis Konechny, I've outlined. I think the kid's a stud. I think he could be future captain of that team. He's kind of the heart and soul. He battles his ass off. Any team would want Travis Konechny. Younger players, Cam York, Jet Lachenko, that they're hoping can turn into something. Morgan Frost has taken a next step in his NHL development. And there will be growing pains for this player this year. There will be struggles at certain points. But Matvei Michkov is already a good NHL player. Matvei Michkov has 7 points in 7 games. He's a power play dynamo, an incredibly good passer, and to me, will be regarded as the second best player in that draft when his career is over. He's not afraid to throw hits. He doesn't back down to anybody. He has that sort of Russian arrogance that they have when they come into the league. Ovechkin had it. You have Malkin had it. There's just a sense of, I'm going to be good at this. I'm going to be successful. And I like that in a player. I think it's good to have that early on. And Matvei Michkov already does. Already has that sense of, I know what I can accomplish. I know what I can do. So all that being said, if you look at his plus minus, he's a -9, which you go, okay, well, that's terrible, and he's not a good player. Well, those people aren't watching the games. And it's why plus minus is a stupid statistic. It's old, archaic. He was on the ice for a lot of goals last night, Matvei Michkov. He was -3 for the game, but he also had 2 points. One of the few guys that had a pulse in that game for the Flyers. Really 2 horrible efforts in back-to-back nights. for Philly. Compare Matvei Michkov, a 19-year-old rookie, to Sean Couturier, who has 1 assist in 7 games. A complete non-factor, the captain of the Flyers. A guy who was healthy scratch last year and the hockey world threw a fit. I don't think they should have thrown a fit. John Tortorella is the coach. He felt that he wasn't giving his best and, he's won a Selke, he's done this and that. Well, okay, he did do that. That's not who he is anymore. Sean Couturier is a depreciating asset, period. Matvei Michkov's the future. The Flyers need to make decisions on what they want to do with certain players. What veterans they want to keep around. Rasmus Ristolainen. Can they find a goal? They thought they had a goalie in Carter Hart. The likelihood is he'll be in the clink before he stops another save on the ice. So they have holes, but they got certain guys that you like, and Michkov is one of them. All likely he'll finish with a horrible plus-minus season, minus 30, higher than that. Don't care. Could he work on his defensive game? Absolutely. But he's already got tools that are translating. He's already got tools that work, and he's on a bad team. And he's one of the more important players already as a 19-year-old. So I'm beyond impressed with him. I think the kid's the real deal. And Philly won't be talked about much. Because, again, they're not a good... They have 1 win. They're 1 win better than the San Jose Sharks currently, the Philadelphia Flyers. That's how they sit. They won't be a playoff team. They will be hanging out in the bottom of the Metropolitan Division in all likelihood, which is good for them, by the way. But I just wanted to point that out because it's a night where no other teams are playing. And you might have taken the night off of sports. I get it. I watched some NBA. I watched some of that game. Watched Survivor. But you go through it and he jumps off the screen. When he has the puck, I want to see what he's going to do with it. And in the offensive zone, he is dangerous. And he will make you pay if you make a mistake. And he's done that tons this year. First 7, he's got 2 multi-point games already. And that's the thing. You look at Michkov, you look at Connor Bedard, they're on bad teams. Young players that aren't going to be good for a while, in all likelihood. Chicago, I'd like them to be better. 2-4-1. Bedard, 7 points in 7 games, same as Michkov, 1 goal, 6 assists. -1, so you go, killing it. Seth Jones, Teuvo Teravainen, all locked for the same number of points on the Chicago Blackhawks. Bad teams, you're hoping you see player progression. You're hoping to see some improvement. Also in the NHL today, part of Quick Hits, Shea Theodore, defenseman for the Vegas Golden Knights, signed a 7-year extension with the team. Shea Theodore is one of the best defensemen in the game, period. He is a guy that I believe will be on Team Canada at the Four Nations Cup, will likely be on Team Canada at the Olympics. And with this signing, the Golden Knights now have Alex Pietrangelo at $8.8 million through 26-27, Noah Hannafin at $7.35 million through 21-32, and Shea Theodore at $7.425 through 2031-32. It's a lot of money to a defense scorer, but I don't really hate any of those contracts. I like all those defensemen. Hannafin's been really good since he got to Vegas. I watched him play in the preseason. Other than Quentin Byfield, he probably popped the most for me. He gets to play with better players, so he gets to take more chances offensively. He's a great skater, and he's a bigger guy than you might think watching on television. Shea Theodore, as I said, Los Angeles did an awesome thing. They drafted a ton of defensemen that were really good. But they gave them all away. That was their fault. They kept Drew Doughty, and the rest had to go. Vegas got Shea Theodore for nothing in the expansion draft. And he's turned out to be one of the more important players in team history. He's a guy that's worked. How will Vegas play this year? Remains to be seen. I think they're a solid group. They host the Senators tomorrow night in an early matinee. 4-2-1. Really good starts from guys like Mark Stone, Eichel, Barbashev. Hurdle had a big game the other night. Theodore, 7 points in 6 games so far. So, I don't hate the moves. I like a big defense. I like a defense that can move. I like defense that are big, that are hard to go through. So I don't hate building a team that way. I actually encourage it. Now, if you're signing a bunch of small defense and you go, okay, we're going to hope to win a cup, go 3 rounds, and I go, okay, you're an idiot. It's not going to work. Bunch of 5'9" defensemen, you're going to lose. You're going to get run through. Vegas, clearly, they don't see it that way. They have the biggest, just top to bottom, they have the biggest defense in the NHL. Just size. How tall and how thick these guys are. So I like it for the Vegas Golden Knights. Good signing. Also tonight, 2 defensemen returning for the New Jersey Devils. Luke Hughes, Brett Pesce will make their season debuts. Brett Pesce will make his Devils debut. Luke Hughes was hurt, missed all of training camp. Brett Pesce also missed most of training camp. Made a few moves, had to send down Seamus Casey, a guy I still think is going to be a great NHL player. But New Jersey, with these 2 guys coming back, they have a great defense. A defense that doesn't have many weaknesses. A defense that can move the puck. Having Dougie Hamilton, Luke Hughes, Brett Pesce, Jonas Siegenthaler, who to me is an underrated guy in the league just when it comes to overall defending. He's New Jersey's Chris Tanev, if you will. But Pesce was good for a long time in Carolina. New Jersey wanted defense help. They scooped him up. Luke Hughes, to me, is a potential superstar. Can move the puck really fast. Good shot. A lot of different dimensions to his game. So New Jersey getting some reinforcements. They had an awful game against Tampa on Tuesday. They are back in action tonight against the Detroit Red Wings in Detroit. So that's where these 2 guys will play their season opener. Devils, you got Panthers, Rangers tonight in a fun game in New York. Wild in Tampa Bay. 2 greats, Marc-Andre Fleury, Andre Vasilevsky, going toe-to-toe. Stars, Bruins this evening. So a lot of fun games. Jets, Kraken, late night game. 2 teams that have played well this year. 2 goalies that actually haven't lost in Joey Decord and Connor Hellebuck. Before we get to headlines, final quick hit. Toronto Raptors had their opener, their home opener last night against the Cleveland Cavaliers at home. And in the game, they suffered their worst home opener loss in franchise history. Losing by 30 points, completely crushed, and it was honestly embarrassing. They did not have R.J. Barrett. They did not have Kelly Olynyk, true, 2 Canadians. But it's not going to be a fun season for the Toronto Raptors. I have their over-under here. For the Raptors, it is 29.5. I would hammer the under. They are extremely young. They don't have a whole lot of guys with experience. They have a coach that they know they're going through a rebuild right now. They know they're going to have some pain before any kind of success. Masai Ujiri admitted to this before the season started. And they're not going to beat many teams. Cleveland, middle of the pack team in the East last year, beat them by 30. And I like Cleveland this year more than I did. I think they're a really good team. But if you just go through the East, Milwaukee, better than Toronto. Cleveland, better than Toronto. Indiana, better than Toronto. Chicago, similar realm. Chicago, players that they'll want to trade before the season's over, namely Zach LaVine and potentially Lonzo Ball. Detroit, worse than Toronto, but I could see them being better by the end of the year. Boston, obviously better than Toronto. Knicks, better than Toronto. Philly, better than Toronto. Brooklyn, no. Orlando, yes. Miami, yes. Atlanta, yeah. Charlotte, probably. And the Wizards, no. The Wizards are the worst team in the NBA. Well, them or Portland. But I gave you there's about 4 teams that the Raptors could be better than. And I don't know if they're better. I think the Pistons could be better than the Raptors by the end of the year. A lot of pain for this team, a lot of losses. You just got to hope it's not by 30. That's got to be the hope. Compete better than what they had last night. So this is the Raptors' upcoming schedules. They obviously open home to Cleveland, lose 136 to 106. Home to Philly on Friday. No Embiid, more than likely no Paul George. 76ers lost to Milwaukee last night. Better chance of winning, that's for sure, against a wounded 76ers team. Back-to-back Saturday at Minnesota. I don't think you win that game. Monday, home to the Nuggets. Yeah, no. Wednesday at Hornets. November 1st, host the Lakers, host Sacramento, at Denver, at Sacramento, at Clippers, at Lakers, at Bucks. That's just a lot of losses in there. So if you like the NBA and you root for the Toronto Raptors, gear up. It's going to be a long year. But maybe watch Celtics or watch. There's good players to watch around the league. You know, tonight you get Victor Wembanyama with the Spurs playing the Mavericks. Mavericks now have Klay Thompson. If you didn't know, left Golden State, now a member of the Dallas Mavericks. Chris Paul, no longer a member of the Golden State Warriors. Now he's a member of the San Antonio Spurs, trying to help Wemby and his transition into the NBA in year 2. So there's entertaining players to watch, entertaining teams to follow. The Raptors won't be one of them. Let's get the headlines. Heading into tonight, The Maple Leafs, it's actually a game that does have some headlines, does have some juice tonight. You go a random Thursday, got to talk about it because you got to talk Leafs. Well, it's actually a good night to talk about them. Tonight, the Maple Leafs play the St. Louis Blues at Scotiabank Arena, and it'll be the first time that Craig Berube plays his former team. He was fired last year by the St. Louis Blues, and on the way out, Jordan Kyrou had some comments for Chief. Other guys didn't seem that upset that Craig Berube was no longer the head coach, which then Kyrou had to come out and clarify and apologize, which I don't think he should have had to, because if you don't like somebody, don't lie and say you do. And again, maybe that's my own fault as a human being. It's just a mistake. But when I don't like somebody, they kind of know it. I tell them, and I don't really care if they dislike that fact. Kick rocks. But Kyrou apologized. They're all peas and carrots. But Berube said he wants to win tonight's game, playing his former team. Binnington, Thomas, Kyrou, Parayko, just some of the Braden Shen, all guys that he coached for a long time. A lot of those guys were on the Stanley Cup team that Craig Berube coached them to in 2019. So there's history there. You're playing a former group that you had a big part in. You want to win the game, no doubt about it. Other headline is Joe Woll was activated from the injured reserve today, and he will make his first start of the season tonight. And Dennis Hildeby has been assigned to the Toronto Marlies. So the 1-2 tandem in Toronto is back. Here's what I don't like about it. If I was the coach, Joe Woll would not be playing tonight. And I'll tell you why. I want to win this game, and Stolarz gives me the best chance to win, and nobody can say otherwise. He's got the best numbers in the league. Expected saves above expectation, all that other nerd Corsi crap. All those metrics, he's number one. He hasn't allowed more than 2 goals in a game. 938 save percent. He's been the least best player, the most consistent one anyway, because he didn't have a clunker like everybody else against Columbus. You're playing the former coach's team. There's no travel, so there's no bullshit excuse that you come up with why you lost. You get to sleep in your bed last night, put the PJs on, whatever you want to do. Anthony Stolarz has been awesome. And the thought is, what are you going to do, start Joe Woll against Boston, in Boston? No, I'm not playing him in that game either. Play him Monday against the Jets. On the road. Jets are a good team. But I'm not giving him this start the day that he's taken off because it rewards bad behavior. Because I'm of the belief that this injury was just a complete bullshit injury that's tightness or whatever this crap goalies are coming up with. Tightness. Oh, I didn't feel good. Oh, I couldn't take a piss this morning, so I had to sit out games. I'm not buying into it. I've never been a parent. Well, scratch that, I had a dog. But some people might not view that as a parent. But I know this. When I was a kid and my parents told me not to do something, and then I went and did the thing that they told me not to do, I wasn't getting a chocolate bar 5 seconds after they told me not to do it. That's rewarding bad behavior. That's enabling. I don't like giving a guy the second he comes off injured reserve a start. Because to me, what it tells me is that the Maple Leafs want Joe Woll to be the number one, and Stolarz is there. But they don't want it to be Stolarz because they gave the money to Woll, and they want it to be Joe Woll. They want him to be great. They don't want him to be injured every 5 seconds. And unfortunately, that's who he is. I'm curious to see this competition because I don't know if there's going to be one. So I just get this suspicion that he is going to be their number one goalie, and even if Stolarz is good, it's not going to matter. Joe Woll is going to get majority of the looks, majority of the opportunities. If I'm coaching, I don't care as long as I'm winning. As long as my team plays well in front of that goalie, I could care less who is out there. I just don't believe Stolarz is going to get as good a look as Joe Woll will. I could be completely wrong, but that's just the way this looks to me. You start one game in the preseason, you get hurt, you miss the first 7 games, and then, oh, I guess I can play tonight. Okay, you can go. It's the exact same thing. Please, you have to be available for us tomorrow. Oh, you're not available. Well, when you are available, we'll play you. That's exactly what the Leafs are telling us. And it's one of the first Berube decisions, this could be a tree living decision because it goes everywhere, that I disagree with. Because quite frankly, it looks scared and it looks like you don't got a pulse and it looks like you don't have a set of balls to do actually the right thing and not the chicken shit thing. Not the coward thing. Acquiescing to a guy that wasn't available to you and you did not know he was not available for the season opener until that fucking morning. This bothers me because it's about competition. It's about being there for teammates. In life, when you tell somebody you're going to do it, you do it. Oh, you're going to plow somebody out. You're going to shovel their driveway. It's simple things, but that's the way I view life. That's how I do it. If I tell my parents I'm going to be there, I'm going to do my damnedest to be there. They want me to do certain things, I'm going to do the best of my ability to do that for them or the people in my life. If I fail, I want to have a legitimate excuse why I'm not there. This guy is, oh, I had tightness. We just don't know what the damn injury was. Tightness. Oh, game 7, the most important game of the year. We could maybe beat the Boston Bruins. We could maybe win a round, not be this fucking joke anymore that people make fun of. Oh, no, can't go. Can't go in the opener. We're going to give it to him. Craig Berube, I like his system. I want to see how the team responds tonight because they were dreadful in Columbus on Tuesday. But to me, this is a decision that doesn't align with his message and doesn't align with the way that he approaches it. He's approached the bench this year with the view, if you play well, you stay in the lineup. And we've seen Pacioretty come out. We've seen Reeves come out, Timmins for a game. Liljegren got a game, and then his ass was back on in the press box because he wasn't worthy of being out there longer. So his message to every other player is, if you play well, you stay in the lineup. Tonight it's, hey, Joe Woll, you're never available. You're hurt. You can't go in big games. You're as soft as cottonelle. Oh, you can go tonight? You play. I know Stolarz can't play every game the rest of the year. I'm well aware of that. However, you're playing his former team. You just had a game where you were dreadful. There might not have been a worse performance by a good team. We talked about this on yesterday's podcast. I looked through games this year. There weren't this blowouts like what happened to Toronto on Tuesday. Teams are losing. Not like that. Not yet, anyway. I just disagree with it. And I don't think it aligns with the message that he's been sending to that team. To me, it contradicts it. It goes against that message. It goes against what he's been preaching. Other than that, no Max Pacioretty for the Leafs tonight. He is day-to-day. Likely David Camp will come back into the lineup, I would imagine, because he was a healthy scratch on Tuesday. So, Joe Woll, no Robert Thomas, as we talked about yesterday, fractured ankle. So he's a no-go tonight for St. Louis. Joe Woll in, Max Pacioretty out for the Leafs. And this is an important game to see how they respond. How do they come out and play after their worst game of the season by a wide margin? How do you come out and play after an embarrassment, quite frankly? A game where you were a no-show, nowhere to be seen. Didn't have a pulse, didn't seem to care. Your star players were dreadful. So that's what's at stake for the Maple Leafs tonight. Not to mention, they have the Bruins on Saturday in Boston. Boston's not had a good start to the season, as we've talked about. They're home to Dallas tonight, so they got a tough stretch. They were in Nashville. Now they host Dallas, host Toronto just this week for the Bruins. The Leafs Bruins be their first matchup since the playoffs last year. It's one of the feature games this weekend for sure. That rivalry, the meaning there. The Leafs just trying to get over that hump. And I truly believe this. I think the Boston Bruins could miss the playoffs. I believe I had them finishing third in the Atlantic. I don't think they will. I think they'll finally be the team that they should have been a couple years ago. And they always defy the odds, and credit to them. But that team looks old so far. They look loose. Not the same. But two big games coming up for the Bruins to try to establish some sort of consistency themselves and how they want to play night in, night out. And they haven't to this point. But Bruins Maple Leafs in Boston on Saturday night. Also this weekend, Jets Flames on Saturday. That's at 8 p.m. puck drop. Both in action tonight. Calgary playing Carolina at home. Winnipeg in Seattle. Winnipeg 6-0. Flames 5-0-1. I want both teams to win tonight, so it's undefeated for both going in. But those two teams believe in themselves, I would say. The Jets have a sense of we can be a playoff team, but we can actually be better than we have in past seasons. Can they establish habits that can translate to the playoffs? Will Connor Hellebuck make a save come playoff time? So a lot to think about in that game, a lot to kind of ponder. Edmonton Oilers have a double shot this weekend. Host Pittsburgh tomorrow night, and always fun, McDavid against Crosby. Then on Sunday afternoon, they travel to Detroit to play the Red Wings. They need some consistency. They need some just good defensive zone habits from their forwards. They haven't gotten any this year yet. You need to see that translate. You need to see McDavid, Draisaitl give a shit in their own zone, or the losses will continue to pile up. But for the Oilers, and I truly believe this for most teams, it doesn't matter who you're playing and what their record is because it's early in the year. Every team other than really San Jose thinks that we could go on a run here. We could get hot, win some games. So the fact that it is Pittsburgh, well, Pittsburgh's got some veterans. They haven't played that well. They threw away a game to Calgary that they likely believe should have won. So they will be motivated to get the 2 points. Detroit, they're under a lot of pressure. I think if Detroit misses the playoffs, and I think there's a high likelihood they will, Red Wings brass has to consider firing Steve Yzerman. No doubt about it. Because he's built a team that is going nowhere. Full of older veterans that really don't make a whole lot of sense. They don't fit the puzzle. It looks weird. So you're playing 2 teams this weekend that you should beat. The Oilers should look at this weekend and go, okay, after this weekend, we're 500. 4-4-1 after this upcoming weekend. And then we get the Blue Jackets, Predators, Flames. Some teams that we feel good about beating, quite frankly. So I'm curious to view that. Caps Lightning also fun because the Caps have been awesome so far this year. They've been really impressive to watch. Sharks Golden Knights, sure, guess that's interesting. Utah and Los Angeles. So some interesting games for sure this weekend in the National Hockey League. We have a number of good games tonight, and we'll recap the weekend on Monday's podcast. Okay, let's move to our feature stories. We're going to get to the World Series in just a second. But we got Thursday Night Football tonight in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium. Minnesota Vikings are in town playing the Rams. And it's interesting because the Rams got a victory against the Raiders in kind of depressing fashion. Not a good game for them. Minnesota lost their first game of the year to the Detroit Lions. And Minnesota comes into this game 5-1, feeling good. But you also have the Rams, who are in rumors all week. There was first the Stafford rumor that was later debunked by Peter Schrager of the NFL Network that he potentially could be traded to the Vikings. But that's not going to happen. He wants to stay in LA. But then the Rams activated Cooper Kupp, who had 14 catches in week 1, and Puka Nacua off the injured reserve. So their 1-2 punch at wide receiver is healthy, and they will now look to move forward. And yes, an offensive line that is compromised. Yes, an offensive line that needs some work and is not elite whatsoever. But they have their top 2 weapons. They have Kyron Williams, who's tied for first in the NFL in rushing touchdowns with Derrick Henry. Their offense can put up some points, and they could still win their division. The line was 3.5 when the week started. It has now been bet down to 2.5 on most books. We'll find the latest here for everybody, that line tonight. But you have Vikings minus 2.5 as a road favorite. That Vikings defense is legit with Brian Flores. The pressures, hammering the quarterback, getting in his face, making him make poor decisions. The only quarterback who was awesome against pressure was Jared Goff. And they lost the game. Matthew Stafford, is pretty good against the blitz, is pretty good against pressure over the course of his career. He's a veteran. He's seen it all. So this is a difficult game to handicap for me because I like the Rams when they're healthy. I like their offense a lot. I love Stafford. Stafford's a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. But you also got Justin Jefferson. And you also have Aaron Jones, who's now healthy. Two good teams, two teams that like to compete. This one, I think, is a good Thursday night game. Without Cooper Kupp and without Puka Nacua, it's likely not a great Thursday night. But these are two teams that absolutely could be playoff teams. If the Rams win tonight, they're 3-4. There'll be a game out of first place in the NFC West. And it'll be curious to see what they decide to do with Cooper Kupp. And if they want to trade him, or they decide to keep him and try to win this year with Stafford and what could potentially be his final season in the NFL. Now, he's never talked about retirement, but he's not a spring chicken. He's had some serious injuries. His wife's had some health issues. So you have to think about all of that. Again, the numbers going down. Money is coming in on the Rams, and I understand why. It's very appetizing to take a home dog. I love betting home dogs to get plus points in your home building. However, the Rams don't have a rabid fan base, just like the Chargers don't have a rabid fan base. Los Angeles loves their Dodgers. Los Angeles likes their Kings, and they tolerate the football team. It's not a football, and they love USC. That's the football team they really support. They love USC. Well, when they're good. I think there'll be more Vikings fans at SoFi tonight than there will be Rams fans. There's not really ever a home field advantage for the Los Angeles Rams. So, looking at it, Minnesota could afford to lose this game, but they also play in such a tough division. They need to stay ahead of the Bears, need to stay ahead of the Packers. They already have a win against the Packers on their schedule this year in Lambeau, which is really impressive. I think Brian Flores has been the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. He will dial things up to come at Matthew Stafford. And going through this whole thing, I hate it. And it goes against what I like to do as a gambler. I like betting underdogs, betting favorites. You might win, but you're not going to win any money betting favorites most of the time because the payout isn't that good. And it's kind of a boring way to go. But Byron Murphy, hell of a player. Bynum, Van Ginkel has been awesome since coming over. Greenard's been awesome coming over from Houston. They got guys that can get to the quarterback, get in their face. I think this is a close game. Very close game. If the line was still 3.5, I would probably take the Rams plus 3.5 because I'd like to keep within a field goal, keep this game close on a Thursday night. However, it's not 3.5, it's 2.5. I take Minnesota minus the 2.5. Cover that spread on the road in an environment that will likely be more favorable for them than it is for the Rams. But this is a tough game to score. Very much so. NFL this weekend, some injury news and notes. Jaden Daniels has not practiced Wednesday or Thursday. The quarterback for the Washington Commanders, aka the Washington football team. So didn't practice either day, suffered a rib injury last week, left the game against the Panthers. So that tells me he's not playing. That tells me he's not. You need to practice one of these days. He will likely try, but they do have a good record. I think they want to look farther down. I do think the Commanders can absolutely win the NFC East this year because the Cowboys are a mess. The Eagles are untrustworthy. Their head coach is a lunatic, loose cannon. But I don't think the Commanders are going to force a game for Jaden Daniels this week. Marcus Mariota played very well in relief. It was against the Panthers. But he's a former second overall pick. He's bounced around the NFL. Commanders are playing the Bears this weekend, which would be a fun game. That was a 2 o'clock game. It got flexed into a 5:25 with Bears, Commanders, Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels, number 1, number 2 in this past year's draft. So there's a headline there. It's spicy. 2 young, good teams. 2 teams that were not very good last year that are now above 500 and competing in their respective divisions. I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to play. And I would tell you, I don't think Vegas thinks he's going to play. Because as we currently chat, the Bears are getting 2.5 on the road. 2.5 point favorites in Washington. So it's the exact same line as the exact same scenario that we have going on tonight. Bears are a good team. Yeah, they're coming off a bye, some different things. But, I mean, Commanders played the Panthers. That's basically getting a bye week. But that tells me Jaden Daniels is not going to play. Vegas believes he's not going to play. If he doesn't play, I think that line goes up before kickoff. I think it'll be more than 2.5 points. The Bears as a favorite. But just know Jaden Daniels likely a no-go this upcoming weekend. Micah Parsons has not practiced Wednesday or Thursday for the Cowboys as well. And you might go, okay, well, he might play. Well, they're coming off a bye, and he's not practicing. Micah Parsons is going to be inactive this weekend for the Cowboys. They're already without DeMarcus Lawrence. They lost defensive players to Washington, like Dorrance Armstrong and guys on the team now. So that defense is wounded. Their running game is terrible. They're playing San Francisco, who are also wounded on Sunday night. Deebo Samuel has pneumonia, unlikely to play. Brandon Ayuk out for the season. No Christian McCaffrey. So they'll have Kittle, Juwan Jennings, and Ricky Pearsall, who will have his second career NFL game. Jordan Mason. So they'll be relying on other guys to have an impact. 49ers are a 4.5 point favorite at home. They always seem to beat the Cowboys. They always seem to play well at Levi Stadium, which is our backdrop today. But no Micah Parsons, no DeMarcus Lawrence, who's already on injured reserve. Doesn't look good for the Cowboys. Just injury news and notes for you to be aware of before this weekend. Also, DeAndre Hopkins did pass his physical with the Chiefs, so he could be active this upcoming weekend when the Chiefs are in Las Vegas. They also put Sky Moore on injured reserve, so he's out a minimum of 4 games. So when they add a receiver, they lose one for the Chiefs. Andy Dalton was in a car accident with his family this week. He sprained his thumb, so he's going to miss some time for the Panthers. That means last year's number 1 overall pick, Bryce Young, is back under center. The Panthers get to go to Denver and play that Broncos defense this weekend. Welcome back, Bryce. Have fun. I wish he would have gotten traded for his sake. traded somewhere else, learn a new system, learn a new offense. Because the Panthers are the biggest joke in the NFL. So poorly run, nobody respects them, going nowhere fast, in a bad division, but it doesn't seem to matter. So that's what's going on for the world for the Carolina Panthers. They are a 10.5-point dog at Denver. Denver's offense is not good. But it's week 8, and what week 8 really means in the NFL is the spreads start to go up. Vegas starts to go, you know what, there's some really bad teams who start to trade players, who start to get rid of guys, injuries, and go, you know what, this team sucks. For instance, the Ravens are an 8.5-point favorite at Cleveland. Cleveland's been bad all year. In a division game, it's rare to see that big of a spread. Tennessee Titans, 11.5-point underdog at Detroit. No Will Levis. Traded DeAndre Hopkins. A really bad team who makes stupid decisions. It makes sense to me. Saints, 7.5-point dog at the Chargers. Panthers, 10.5. Chiefs, 9.5-point favorite. So what happens? This will continue the rest of the year for these teams like Carolina, like Tennessee. Jacksonville could be added to this club if they keep going the way that they've been going. Honestly. Any other teams for me? Saints are definitely in that club. They want to be in that club. Panthers, Broncos even. They're above 500, but they're not a good team. They can't score points. Their quarterback can't complete a pass more than 5 yards down the field. That's a problem. But NFL Week 8, some interesting games. Bills at Seahawks. That's a fun game. Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock kickoff. Falcons, Buccaneers. Bucks were a favorite at the start of the week. They're now a 2.5-point underdog at home, as I predicted they would be, with the injuries to Chris Godwin and the injuries to Mike Evans. Eagles, an underdog at the Bengals in one of the better games of Week 8. Bengals with a win will get back to 500. Cardinals, Dolphins. Another fascinating game to me. A game that it's an odd one, this game. Tua Tagovailoa returning for the Fish. It's weird because everybody's got an opinion on him. Most don't want him to come back and play. My opinion is it's his choice. It's his life. So let him do what he wants to do. He knows very well the risks. If he goes out there and he gets a serious injury, another concussion, he made that decision. So I don't have a problem with it. He's been cleared by by Dolphins doctors that know more than you or me. And if he wants to keep playing, keep playing. Dolphins certainly have a much better chance of winning games with Tua under center than Skylar Thompson or Snoop Huntley or Tim Boyle, whoever else they can find on a street corner to play quarterback for that team. So that game is of interest to me because I just want to see him play. How he wasn't playing well before the injury this year. How does he bounce back after being out weeks on the injured reserve with this concussion? I wish him the best. I don't want to see him get injured again, but I don't have an issue with him playing because it's his life. And I've learned anything over the last 4 to 5 years is let people do what they want to do with their health and with their body. Let people do what they want to do because really it's their life. And I know it's been kind of counterproductive because if you didn't do what other people wanted you to do, you were a bad person. But kick rocks. If you have to be a bad person in life, I'll gladly be a bad person because I don't like doing the status quo and I don't like just doing something because everybody's doing it. That's boring. And it's not always right just because this is what you should do. Oh, should. Big word, should. That's what you should do. Poppycock. But a big NFL weekend starts Vikings-Rams tonight. I like Vikings minus 2.5, cover the spread, and win in Los Angeles and improve to 6-1. But it could go either way. Like I said, 3.5 points, I'd bet the Rams. Because I think they can keep it within a field goal, but it's at 2.5. I think this is a game into the fourth quarter. If Stafford plays well, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp on the field, Kyron Williams, who can do good things, help out this offense. Thursday night games are always weird too, short week, travel, things of that nature. So we'll see what happens tonight in the NFL. Tomorrow night, the World Series commences in the same city, Los Angeles, just at Chavez Ravine, where we get Yankees-Dodgers. For the first time in 40 years, the two biggest brands in the sport of baseball, America's favorite pastime, has superstars in the World Series. Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Aaron Judge, Juan Soto. It's loaded. You get World Series champions, Betts, Anthony Rizzo, Juan Soto. Guys that have done it, guys that have achieved. Garrett Cole will get to his first World Series since the failure with the Houston Astros back in 2019. This is a great series for baseball. I also think it's a great series as a product to somebody that wants to watch these games. Shohei Ohtani is a unique product. Shohei Ohtani is box office. He's the MVP of the National League. And he's a unicorn, unlike anything that we will ever see again. A guy that, he doesn't play a position. Couldn't pitch this year because he had his second Tommy John surgery. But he stole 50 bases for a guy that is 6'4", 6'5", 240 pounds. You don't see that every day. His launch angle, the way he hits the ball is unique. His popularity. He's more popular than any athlete in the world, not hyperbole. Maybe Lionel Messi. We're talking about reach. We're talking about Asia. We're talking about Japan. We're talking about China that love Shohei Ohtani. I was reading an article this morning, a really interesting one on The Athletic, that's saying that they believe that the ratings will be bigger in Japan than they will be in the United States when it comes to watching the World Series, because they are predicting 18 to 20 million people will be watching the World Series because Ohtani is a part of it. And Yamamoto for the Dodgers is also a part of it. It's crazy what he can do. Hideki Matsuyama, it was huge when he won the Masters. Not just because he's Japanese, because he had such an audience. That whole country loves him because they don't have that many people. They had Hideki. He was offered $500 million plus to go play live golf. He turned it down. That's how much money, that's how many eyeballs are on these certain players. Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani. Two best players in the sport right now, one might argue. And they get to play against each other. Like Sid playing Connor McDavid in their primes. Baseball gets to say that, guess what? We got it. And we get Dodgers, Yankees. It's not Edmonton playing Pittsburgh. Two average hockey markets at the best. You always talk the big names, what they're going to do. Mookie Betts won a World Series already. But I think the Dodgers are also, they're so hungry to win another one because the year they won the World Series, it was that year, it was the COVID year. They only played 60 games. It was really the Fauci title that they won. It was a weird baseball season. Justin Turner got COVID, then came back out, my hero. So I look at it as a Fugazi World Series. It's not a real one. The Dodgers played 162 this year. They're spending a ton of money. They're trying to win a World Series. In a jam-packed Chavez Ravine, not winning a World Series in Texas in front of 400 people and a golden retriever. We saw, sometimes it's the other pieces. MVP of the NLCS, Tommy Edman. Tommy Edman, a utility player who was a member of the St. Louis Cardinals, who they got at the trade deadline. Batted over 400 in the CS. Hit a home run in the deciding Game 6. Drove in 6 runs in the CS. He was awesome. An unexpected hero for the Dodgers. For the Yankees, it was Giancarlo Stanton, who's not what he used to be, is now an everyday DH, but can still power the ball out of the ballpark if you want him to. 4 home runs in 5 games against the Guardians. He's been phenomenal all postseason long. His numbers in the playoffs in his career are similar to those of Barry Bonds, Reggie Jackson, the all-time best players. Giancarlo Stanton. He's feeling it. His press conference, he's been saying, we've accomplished nothing yet. He wants it badly. He got traded from the Marlins because he wanted an opportunity to win a World Series, and he went to the Yankees, and they failed every year, but now they finally get to a World Series. Not to mention Garrett Cole, who has had his ups and downs, was an ace, then got caught with sticky stuff, has not been an ace, came back this year after an injury-plagued start. I thought he might need Tommy John, and yet he's going to start Game 1 of the World Series. It's a pretty incredible story. The key in this series to me is the bullpen of both teams. Luke Weaver, the closer, has been awesome for the Yankees. Clay Holmes cannot be the closer anymore because he had the most blown saves in baseball, and Luke Weaver came out of nowhere and became a closer. And he's been awesome for that team. Now, Clay Holmes has been good in the 7th or 8th inning, but I look at Weaver, I look at Holmes, guys that need to pitch in big spots. You look at the other side for the Dodgers. The Dodgers will have a bullpen game in this series, mark my words. They've won, 2 already this postseason. On Sunday, we saw a bullpen game. And I hate bullpen games, by the way. I think it goes against what baseball stands for, but nevertheless. Michael Kopech, who they got at the trade deadline. Kasperius, Banda, Brazier, Evan Phillips, Hudson, Blake Trinan, who's been good. Which bullpen will hold up? Because Garrett Cole's been averaging about 4 1/3 innings in his start so far. That's not many innings. Yamamoto, been about the same. He will go in game 2 for the Jack Flaherty, up and down. Went 7 innings. Game 1 of the CS. Game 5, he went 2 2/3. So starting pitching really is not reliable anymore in Major League Baseball because you never know what you're going to get. You never know what you're going to get from that position. How many innings that they will give you. So I think it's going to be a really fun series. 2 excellent teams. We get games Friday and Saturday night. Prime time on Fox. John Schmaltz, World Series champion, on the call. I'm going to pick the Dodgers to win the World Series. Now, I've been wrong from the start. I didn't think the Yankees would make the playoffs. They ultimately won their division, and now they're here. I thought the Dodgers would win a World Series next year because they need a year to figure stuff out, their pitching returns, and then they would. They're both better than I thought they'd be. I think the Dodgers just have a little bit more firepower. I think the Dodgers are a slightly better team. Beating them 4 out of 7 times, I just don't think it's going to happen. Yankees in game 1, Garrett Cole needs to be good. They need to win that game. They need a split in Chavez Ravine. Their best chance is in game 1 with Garrett Cole, their best pitcher. They've announced their game 2 starter yet. Very well could be Carlos Rodon. I'm going to say Dodgers, and it's going to be a long series, but I'm going to say Dodgers in 6 games over the Yankees. So the Yankees' drought will continue. Dodgers will get a real World Series this time, not a fake one. And we'll recap this all on Monday. I do want to say this. Clayton Kershaw, I like Clayton Kershaw. Don't get me wrong. I do. One of the best pitchers of his generation. Some might argue the best. I wouldn't, but some might argue that. He hasn't played this postseason. He's hardly played this year. He's already announced he's going to try to play next year. If the Dodgers win, he doesn't get a ring in my personal record book because he did nothing to contribute to it. In my personal record book, Clayton Kershaw would still have 0 rings. Madison Bumgarner would still have 3 with 2 World Series MVPs, but who's counting? I'm more of a Mad Bum guy, absolutely, because I think he's a better player. And he's better in the playoffs, and he was so elite. He pitched out the bullpen start, didn't need days off, wasn't a soft, awful. But in my personal record book, if the Dodgers win, Clayton Kershaw will still have 0 rings because I don't count the one that they won after winning 60 games, and I wouldn't count this one because he did nothing to earn it. And nobody was asking for my take on this, but I wanted to give it anyway because I just like to. It's my podcast. NBA tonight, Spurs, Mavericks. Fun game tonight in the association. Oklahoma City at Denver. 2 good teams, 2 teams that'll be in the playoffs, 2 teams that have players that will be in the MVP conversation, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nikola Jokic. So fun matchup. Also Minnesota in Sacramento. It's a better game. Minnesota losing the opener in Los Angeles, looking to rebound tonight in Sacktown. Former Raptor DeMar DeRozan is now a member of the Sacramento Kings. Fun fact. You also have Celtics Wizards tonight, which is a truly dreadful game. The Wizards stink. The Celtics are amazing. That one could get ugly quick. When I mean quick, I mean tip-offs now. So get there now if you want to watch the game because it'll be over before you know it. Before we wrap, be a little quicker show today, Thursday, end of the week. Glad we had a good show tonight. Great shows this week. Like the feedback. It's been awesome. Quickly, this weekend, UFC 308. Again, I haven't been talking much MMA because I know it's not top of everybody's mind, but I think it's worth bringing up today because it's a big event. It's in Abu Dhabi. It's during the day. Of this weekend, it's the biggest thing happening in professional sports, and the World Series is playing. And that's not really hyperbole. Even bigger than Leafs Bruins, if you can believe it. That was a joke. Little sarcasm for you all. But why I'm bringing this up is I think it has the fight of the year on the card. Ilya Topuria defending his featherweight title against Max Holloway. Max Holloway, a former champion. Ilya Topuria has been awesome. He's undefeated. Going into this fight, he knocked out Alexander Volkanovski back in February to win the belt. Ilya minus 310, Max plus 240. It's a tough fight to score. Really is. Could go either way. I just think Ilya Topuria's hands are so sharp. He's a little bit younger. He's never fought anybody like Max Holloway, that's for sure. Max Holloway is an OG. Max Holloway is elite of the elites. One of the best of all time. But I think Ilya's going to win. Max Holloway's never been knocked down. I think that'll change this upcoming weekend. I think Ilya's going to finish Max Holloway this weekend. Send a message. I believe in him that much. He's just so crisp with his boxing. I think he's got more tools in the toolbox that we haven't seen. I think it'll be a great fight. Max will not go down easy, but I do think Ilya will retain his featherweight title. Also on the card, co-main event, Robert Whittaker against Khamzat Chimaev in the co-main event, 5 rounds. Awesome fight. The winner of this fight easily could get the next shot at 185. Here's where I go. Khamzat's a minus 250 favorite. This is a 5-round fight. He went 3 rounds against Kamaru Usman. He was lucky to win that. Kamaru took that fight on 4 days' notice, and he had to fly to Saudi Arabia. Robert Whittaker knew this was happening. Robert Whittaker has won a number of fights in a row. He got his first stoppage since 2018 in his last fight out, knocking out Aliskerov. Bobby Knuckles is plus 198. I think Bobby Knuckles defeats Khamzat Chimaev in an upset, gives Khamzat his first loss as a pro. Again, this is another one. So hard to score. Could go either way. I'm going with the veteran Bobby Knuckles. Rest of the card, Leron Murphy, Dan Ige, great fight. Awesome fight. Leron Murphy, I'd lean. Ankalaev, Rakic. Ankalaev, I think winning that will face Alex Pereira. Down the line, you also have Shara Bullet, Shara Magomedov against Arma Petrosyan to open the main card. The prelims are good. The prelims start at 11 a.m. Oh, Saturday's going to be an amazing day for yours truly. With college football, with UFC at 11 a.m., Leafs, Bruins. Again, joke. You got the World Series Game 2 that night. So we'll have so much to recap on Monday's program. Thank you all for hanging out this week. Thank you for the continued support, as always. We'll be back on Monday. Until then, take care. Enjoy the weekend. I'm your host, Noah Warren, and this is the Live and Learn podcast.